Shaster Hook. His name is Sung Jinwoo. He is the weakest hunter in all of South Korea. He wakes up every morning, puts on gear that does not protect him, and walks into dungeons that could kill him in seconds. He does it for the hospital bills. He does it for his mother. He does it for his little sister, Gina, who still believes her brother is going to be okay. That is all he has. That is enough. That is it. World breaks South Korea, some years after gates began appearing across the sky like wounds that refused to close. Monsters pour out from the other side. They are real. They bleed. They kill. To fight them, certain humans awakened abilities, and the world called them hunters. Hunters are ranked from E to S, and the gap between those two letters is not a gap at all. It is an ocean. It is a cliff with no bottom. Sung Jinwoo is an E-rank hunter, the absolute floor, the weakest of the weak. Other hunters call him the weakest hunter of all mankind, and they do not say it quietly. They say it in break rooms, in briefings, in the casual cruelty of people who feel safe enough to be unkind. He shows up anyway. He always shows up. His body is not built for this. His stats are not built for this. He walks into low-rank dungeons with other E-rank hunters and scrapes together whatever he can, gate after gate, week after week, month after month. This is the system that already exists before any magic one arrives. A bureaucratic machine that sorts humans by power discards the ones at the bottom and celebrates the ones at the top. An S-rank hunter is a national hero. An E-rank hunter is furniture. That contrast lives inside Jinwoo every single day, and he absorbs it the way a person absorbs weather, not with bitterness, just with endurance. He is tired, yes, but he keeps going. He keeps signing up for runs that could erase him. He does not dramatize it. He just shows up. Until the day the dungeon shows up for him. Betrayal and loss. It is a double dungeon, a dungeon hidden inside another dungeon, a phenomenon so rare and so lethal that experienced hunters go pale when they hear the words. Jinwoo's party stumbles into one while finishing what should have been a routine E-rank gate. The outer dungeon ends, the inner one opens, and what they find inside is not something E-rank hunters were built to survive. The architecture alone is a warning. Stone pillars covered in scripture, statues frozen in positions of worship, a chamber designed like a temple, and temples always want something. There are rules carved into the walls, and the rules are simple. Praise the statue, do not make noise, do not stop moving, do not stop worshiping. Break any rule, and the statues come alive, and they do not stop. They do not tire. They do not negotiate. One hunter panics. Of course one hunter panics. Panic is the most honest response to an impossible room. He makes noise. He breaks the rule. The statues activate. What follows is not a battle. It is a harvest. Hunters die in front of Jinwoo, one after another. People he stood beside 10 minutes ago. People with names and families and mourning habits that will never happen again. The chamber does not care. The statues move with mechanical certainty, cold and calculated, executing the trespassers with the clean efficiency of a system doing exactly what it was designed to do. Jinwoo tries to hold things together. He pulls people. He guides them. He uses his body as a shield because he has nothing else to use. He is the last one standing, or almost the last. He survives by some margin so thin it barely deserves the word. His body is destroyed. He is bleeding from places he cannot count. He is going to die in this room. He knows it the way you know something true when all the noise is gone. Not saved, not rescued, not even hopeful. Just dying. And then the screen appears. Regression. It is not a regression in the traditional sense. Jinwoo does not travel backward through time. There is no second childhood, no memory of a previous life blooming behind his eyes when he wakes. What happens to him is something stranger and more violent than that. He wakes up in a hospital. He should be dead. He is not. And hovering at the edge of his vision, visible only to him, is a translucent interface, a status screen, a quest log, a system that has chosen him, has selected him from all the broken bodies in that temple, and has offered him something that should not exist. The ability to grow, the ability to level up. In a world where a hunter's rank is fixed at awakening, where your ceiling is decided for you the moment your power manifests, the system offers Jinwoo a door with no ceiling. It calls him a player. It calls itself the system. It gives him quests. It punishes failure. It does not explain itself beyond what is necessary. He is not reset to before the trauma. He is reset to before the comfort. He is starting over from a position of total devastation with one new variable in the equation. That variable is everything. Power Awakens. The quests begin small. 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 10 kilometers running, every single day, no rest days. The system does not ask how he feels. It does not acknowledge that his body was recently destroyed. It simply assigns the work and waits. Jinwoo does the work. He does it alone in his small apartment. He does it when his muscles fail and rebuild and fail again. He watches numbers climb on a status screen that only he can see. Strength, agility, vitality, perception, numbers that move, a rank that bends, a ceiling that no longer exists above his head. Other hunters would call it impossible. Other hunters cannot see what he sees. He returns to dungeons. E rank at first, because his registered rank has not changed, and the Hunter Association still has him filed under weakest of all mankind. But something inside the dungeons now responds to him. Shadows twitch at the edges of his attention. Defeated monsters leave behind something extra when they fall. The system calls them shadows. His shadows. An army that does not breathe, does not sleep, does not require payment. It simply obeys. His power has a name, though he does not know it yet. Necromancer is too gentle a word. What he is building is a different kind of dominion entirely. Cold plan. This is where the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. Old Jinwoo wore his fear like a second layer of skin. He walked into dungeons knowing he might not walk out, and he walked in anyway, but there was always that tremor underneath it. Always that recognition that he was too small for this world, and the world had no obligation to protect him. He was generous with other hunters. He covered for the ones who panicked. He used his body to buy time for people who would not have done the same for him. He was kind because he was human, and because kindness was one of the few things the rank system could not take from him. New Jinwoo walks through the same city, into the same registration halls, past the same faces who said his name like it was a punchline. But something is different behind his eyes. The fear is gone, not managed, not suppressed. Gone. What replaced it is not arrogance, not the loud confidence of someone who has just discovered power. It is quieter than that, and far more dangerous. It is patience. It is calculation. It is the specific stillness of a person who already knows how the next 10 moves are going to land. He does not announce his growth. He does not correct anyone who still treats him like an E-rank liability. He watches. He observes which hunters cut corners in dungeons, which raid leaders leave their weakest members to die when things get difficult, which people in this industry are running it the way the temple statues ran that chamber. Clean, cold, without apology. He keeps accepting dungeon runs below his real level because they give him what he needs. Information. Monsters to absorb into his growing shadow army. Practice maintaining a face that gives nothing away. Every dungeon run that other hunters think he is barely surviving is a dungeon run he is using. There is a strategy underneath the stillness, and the strategy is this: grow in the dark, grow without witnesses, and by the time the world looks up and tries to categorize him again, he will be something the categories were not built to hold. He is not doing this for revenge. He is not doing this for recognition. He is doing it because the system chose him, and he has chosen to deserve that selection completely. Execution. He already knows which gate he will enter next before the Hunter Association posts the listing. He already knows which hunters in the party will freeze when the first wave hits, and which ones will spend the entire run watching the gate timer instead of watching the fight. He already knows exactly how much power he needs to conceal to maintain his E-rank registration for another 3 weeks. He already knows the weight distribution of every weapon type in his inventory and which shadow soldier in his growing army is best suited for which terrain. He moves through a mid-rank dungeon like a surgeon. His shadow soldiers deploy with precision. They hold the flanks. They absorb damage. They execute. The other hunters in the party are watching a man they registered as dead weight and seeing someone who moves like he was built for this room specifically. They do not understand what they are seeing. That is by design. He already knows that understanding will come later, and he has already decided it does not matter when. A gate boss appears. B-rank monster in what was registered as a C-rank dungeon. This happens. Gates lie. Monsters grow. The hunters who came in expecting an easy run begin the specific kind of panic that lives in the chest cavity and makes the legs useless. Jinwoo does not panic. Jinwoo has already identified the boss's movement pattern from the first 3 seconds of watching it breathe. He already knows where it is going to step. He already knows which side it favors. He already knows which of his shadow soldiers can take the hit that is about to come and survive it. The fight takes 4 minutes. The other hunters stand at the perimeter and watch a man they dismissed dismantle a B-rank monster with the clean efficiency of someone who has stopped treating dungeons as threats and started treating them as appointments. No speech, no explanation. He collects the shadow. He walks to the gate exit. That is it. Confrontation. There is a moment later in these early chapters where Jinwoo stands across from a hunter who has spent years operating under the assumption that power justifies everything it does. A man who treats lower-rank hunters as equipment, who enters dungeons with a survival calculation that always includes acceptable losses among the people he is supposed to protect. He is looking at Jinwoo now, and something in the back of his brain is sending signals his confidence is not yet ready to interpret. Jinwoo looks back at him with eyes that contain absolutely zero warmth. Not hostility, not rage. Hostility would be a kind of engagement, a kind of acknowledgement that this person in front of him still has some leverage over his interior state. What Jinwoo's eyes communicate is something far more unsettling than anger. They communicate that he has already finished thinking about this situation and arrived at a conclusion, and the conclusion does not include any need for the other man to agree with it. The hunter tries the voice that has always worked, the tone that sits just above a threat, the casual reminder that in this industry, reputation and rank connections are currency, and he has more of both. Jinwoo does not move. He does not raise his voice. He says what needs to be said in the fewest words it requires, and then he is done. Not a performance, not a warning. A statement of fact delivered by a person who is no longer available to be diminished. The hunter feels something shift in the room and cannot identify what it is. It is the specific sensation of realizing that the person you were about to underestimate has already finished underestimating you back weeks ago and has been operating from that conclusion ever since. Not fury, not wounded pride, not even contempt. Just the absolute certainty of a man who knows exactly what he is now. Philosophy and CTA. Solo Leveling is not a story about revenge, though it contains revenge. It is not a story about recognition, though recognition eventually arrives. At its core, stripped of the gates and the shadows and the system interface, it is a story about a person who was told by every available metric that he was the ceiling of what he could become, and who decided, in a hospital room after surviving the unsurvivable, that metrics are just measurements and measurements can be wrong. The system did not create Sung Jinwoo, it revealed him. It gave the endurance that was already there a mechanism to compound. Every person who said his name like a joke, every dungeon he survived on willpower alone before the interface ever appeared, every hospital bill, and every morning he got up anyway, that was the foundation. The system just built on top of it. The scariest people are not the ones who discover they were always powerful. The scariest people are the ones who were genuinely weak, who know exactly what weakness costs, and who decided to pay a different price instead. Comment which manhwa I should recap next.